I grew up in the vibrant and bustling town of Ahmedabad in Gujarat, India. My childhood was filled with vibrant colors, loud music, dancing during Indian festivals, as well as sharing juicy mangoes with my father. But when I was 16, I lay in the hospital bed, shaking with a fever. I had dengue, a potentially fatal disease, especially in its severe form. I remember the look in my father's eyes. He is a pediatrician, a man who always has the answers. But that day, he had none. He rubbed his fingers against his forehead, distraught. Just fear and waiting. As I looked at the white ceiling, tucked under the hospital sheets, I wondered, what happens next? Gradually, over a month, I recovered, gaining back my strength and my appetite. A year later, I contracted falciparum malaria, far more deadly, with a mortality rate of up to 40%. My fevers ranged from 102 to 105 degrees Fahrenheit. I lost 15 pounds in just 2 weeks. I remember the look on my mother's face, turning towards my father so that I wouldn't see her cry. And once again, we waited, held our breath, monitored vitals, not knowing if I would pull through. And yet, despite the odds, I survived. What can I say? Dang those pesky mosquitoes. For many, going through their own mortality, facing it, creates fear. For me, it awakened something else, a longing and desire to practice and serve through medicine, to stand next to those in their most uncertain times. Medicine teaches us to diagnose, to treat, and to heal. But what I learned, and what every healthcare provider eventually learns, is that medicine is built on probabilities, not on absolutes. We never say, you will be cured. We say, there's an 80% chance that this treatment will work. We make decisions without ever being fully certain of the outcomes. In 2016, I packed my life into 2 suitcases, said goodbye to the mango season, and immigrated to the United States alone. I started at community college and worked 2 full-time jobs while studying between bus rides and night shifts. There was no safety net, just hope and belief that I could build a life here from scratch. Eventually, I transferred to UCLA. And in 2020, the world as we know it completely changed. As the world was shutting down, I started to work at a small pharmacy in Menifee, delivering prescriptions to the elderly and immunocompromised patients, the ones that were too afraid to open their doors. I wasn't just dropping off medications. I was providing something deeper, reassurance, the belief that even when we are isolated, we are never truly alone. Patients, families, doctors, we all face uncertainty. We live in the space between knowing and not knowing. We live in the waiting, not in the knowing. There is a famous thought experiment in quantum physics, Schrodinger's cat. The idea is simple but unsettling. A cat is placed into a sealed box with a radioactive atom that may or may not decay, triggering a poison that may or may not be released. Until the box is opened, the cat exists in a state of being alive and dead simultaneously. It sounds bizarre, but it mirrors a life in medicine. A test result pending, a treatment that may or may not work, a future you hope for, but can't yet see. Until the decision is made, Until the box is opened, we live suspended in these multiple possibilities, just like Schrodinger's cat. In 2021, I started medical school at UC Davis. And in 2024, I started my oncodermatology research fellowship here at UC Irvine. Every single day, I worked alongside patients with devastating diagnoses: metastatic lung cancer, pancreatic cancer, breast cancer. What struck me the most wasn't just the medical complexity. It was the uncertainty. Would the treatment work? Would they qualify for another clinical trial? Would they live to see another birthday? Patients face these uncertainties on an everyday basis. Say that the treatment worked. What about its side effects? Let me tell you about one of these patients. He has advanced lung cancer and is part of an experimental drug and a clinical trial. Thankfully, the medication was working. His tumor had shrunk significantly, but the treatment came with a cost. His fingernails became raw and painful. His nails started bleeding and cracking. He looked at me and said, "I used to play the piano every evening. Now I can barely button my own shirt. Will I ever play again?" In the field of oncodermatology, we take care of these patients' skin and nail reactions with great care. We helped start him on a regimen that included daily antiseptic soaks, thick moisturizers, as well as petroleum jelly to reduce friction. Gradually, over time, his fingers started to heal. And although he didn't quite get back to Beethoven, he could button his shirt, and that was a win. And he isn't the only one. Thousands of patients qualify for these clinical trials, and that is why they are still here, still making music. What I realized is that uncertainty isn't just a threat. It is also a space where possibility exists, where new stories, new treatments, new survival outcomes can exist. Another thing I learned is that these patients need presence. They need someone willing to stand beside them in the unknown. Because being present doesn't mean just being there physically. It means bearing witness to someone's uncertainty and choosing to stay anyway. That kind of presence changes people. For me, my family, mentors, and closest friends provided me with that kind of presence. They were always there with me through my darkest and hardest moments. Always there, steady through the turbulence. So, what if Schrodinger's cat isn't the real paradox and uncertainty? What if we come to realize who we really are? Quantum physics embraces probability over a fixed reality, and maybe so can we. The greatest discoveries in medicine don't come from knowing, they come from curiosity. And the greatest transformations in life, not from knowing the outcome, but from having the courage to act anyway. I may not know what tomorrow holds, but I do know this. I want to go the distance. I want to be unrelenting. I want to make a difference, and I want to be the change. Ask yourself, who do you want to be? I can be a physician. I can be spiritual, grounded, flawed, whole. And as a future doctor, I promise to protect the cat to the best of my abilities. Maybe the real paradox isn't Schrodinger's cat. Maybe it's each and every one of us, both the observer and the observed. writing our futures as we become them. It is not about opening the box. It is about who we are while it's still closed. And maybe, just maybe, that is where the magic begins. Thank you very much.